G'day and welcome to another episode of Tech Adept Crafts. Today we are talking about the October Patreon release. A little late, but it's been a busy month. This is The Road. Now, yes, obviously there is a road there, but there is so much more than just the road. We have a little cave with dragon bones. Well, we assume they're dragon bones. There might be a dinosaur bone, or bones, sorry. And there is the statue here, which is very reminiscent of the statue of the prince from Tale of Two Cities by Ian Lovecraft. We have the little watchtower plinth here with the flame on top, and I'm not really sure what to do with this part. It looks like it could be done as a sacrificial pit with a little sluice for waste. And that then dribbles down there. So I have painted this up just slightly darker in this area just to represent that is a possibility, but without fixing that in place that is absolutely a sacrificial pit. But it's a possible. It could just be, you know, an early rainwater tank. I don't know. could be a number of things. But you know, you can put that into your painting to see what you want to make it. But we have this little dried up river down through the bottom of that. I did think about putting some water effects in there, but just the angle that I was going to have to section that off so that I could put the water effects in there was just going to make it very tricky, so I've decided to leave it as a dry riverbed. I really wanted to try and capture some of the look of the rocks that you find in the mid-northwest in the States, North Dakota, South Dakota, the Badlands up there. That's reminiscent for me of what this looks like, and I really like the way that it's turned out in the end, and I'm happy with this sort of rock feature. Very different, but I'm happy with it. Sit back, enjoy the tutorial, and I will see you briefly at the end. Cheers! So after a zenithal highlighting undercoat, which is a black then an overdubbing of white, I'm using this terracotta paint from Kaiser color. Beautiful color, and this is going over all of the natural stonework, not the paving, but just the natural stonework. I debated whether or not to paint the statue in the same color. In the end, I thought it'll go well. Raw Sienna is the next one, and I'm using this as dots over all of that natural stone as the first of the alternate colors within that stonework. I do work up a number of different colors into that stone. The next one is a turquoise from Crafty color. It's a really nice green color. It just adds a bit of variety. I'm using my own mix here of grey, which is just simply a white and black craft paint, and I'm doing that over all of the paving stones, all of the set brickwork that is scattered throughout the diorama. This is the same technique that I use on a lot of buildings, so it does tie together with my other terrain pieces. That grey becomes the next dot colour to add to the stone. To start colouring in those dragon bones, I'm using a mix of the raw sienna and grey. This gives it a very weathered appearance to start with, rather than just a straightforward bone colour. While I've got the raw sienna, I start working on the paving stones. I add random bricks in various colors. So the first one I've got there is the raw sienna. I go back later and I add burnt umber to give variety to the stonework there. Just a few different bricks Once you go over that with some dry brushing and some washes, they all start to tie together. That burnt sienna now becomes the basis for all of the wood paneling that you'll find over the piece. There's not too much of it, just on that bridge itself and the little jutting platform that comes out from that pit. Now to add some shading, this brown wash is the mix from Black Magic Craft, and I'm using that over all of the paving stones, over the woodwork, and over some of the areas of stone, such as within the pit and down the sluice channel and in the base of the river. But that's pretty much the extent of the shading that I'm doing with that wash. Now, I was in a little bit of a hurry and I forgot to do this light grey part before the wash, which I should have done. It is a trim line to add to certain areas of the stone. Again, just for variety. Don't forget that during October, this model is available over on Patreon at patreon.com/techadeptcrafts. And I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody at Patreon who's joined me. All the people at the Hobby Goodness, you guys make sure that this channel keeps running, and I really appreciate your support. But to take a moment, I'd like to thank the full tacklers for their support. They go above and beyond there. Andreas Rocco, David Bennett, David Scaberis, Dwayne C. Israelson, Jean Maguire, Joel Cunningham, Judy Hayes, Kevin Goodrich, Christina B., Lopiana, Mousetrap Creations, Night Lurker, Riri, Sean McKinley, and Toggers. You guys are legendary. While that light grey is still wet, we're using it to do a dry brush. It's going over all of the stonework there. Now that it's dried from the wash, this really ties them all together. Continuing with the dry brushing, this raw sienna is going over all of the bones from the dragon, and it is a light dry brushing but multiple times, just to really work that colour up in a gradual way. Adding some of this yellow oxide to the raw sienna, I'm dry brushing over the stonework now to create a really bright, vibrant, sun-drenched look to that stone. And later I go back over it again with just the yellow oxide, very, very light dry brushing. This wonderful bone color is the Unbleached Titanium from Liquitex. I really enjoy using this color. It goes on very, very well, and I'm using this as a dry brush over the bone, and as I get towards the tips of the bones, I either make it heavier with the dry brushing or I start to really make it an over brushing, putting more paint on the brush as I do that. Final highlighting on the stone. This is adding a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium to the yellow oxide and just lightly dusting over the edges of that stonework, but a little bit heavier on the statue to make it stand out. All the metal components are getting a basing of this game color gunmetal. Later you'll see I go over this with that brown wash that I had before. Now to paint the flame that sits in that little sconce at the top, I'm using a 5-color, or really 6-color technique, starting from a yellow through to orange, red, a deep red, and a black, but the basing starts with the white. You want a really bright beginning. Then the yellow goes over the majority of the flames, maybe just leaving the little bit at the base. That's where it's the hottest, that's where it's going to be the whitest. Working in the orange now, and I'm trying to do this very quickly while it's still wet. The orange will go over a fair bit of that flame as it moves up towards the top. And as I'm blending, I'm trying to go back and put a heavier orange on the upper parts. I'll also go in and add that orange and yellow into the recess where this flame is going to sit, so that it looks as though it's actually shining on that metal. Then you go into your red and you do the same sort of technique. You're probably going to about half of the flame now. You really don't want to do too much. Towards the top, maybe the top little fifth of it, you're going to use that deep red, and on the very tips you will use just a little bit of black, just for the charred ash or smoke right at the tip of the flames. A little bit of super glue and sticking in that flame, that part's done. Deciding what sort of flock and foliage to put on this, I've brought up a few things and I'm just testing them out to see how they look with the various colors. I do like the look of the brown foliage here, so I'm going to use that, but the darker green flock just looked too dark for me. The purple just looked really out of place. So I'm using PVA glue, putting some of that down, and then just sticking that foliage into there. While it's wet, I'm then adding flock over the top to fill the gaps and to help stick that foliage down. It didn't actually stick down all that well with the PVA glue, and I was running out of time, so I did put extra super glue into there, and that held it really well. But I wouldn't use the super glue for the flock. The foliage fine, the flock just stick with PVA. So there you have the tutorial on painting The Road, the October Patreon piece designed by Ian Lovecraft. Amazing piece of scenery, had a huge amount of fun painting this, and did paint it in a fairly short space of time. But I'm really happy with the colors in this, the way that it's all come together, and all of the various elements in it really just bring so much character to the diorama. I really do love it. If you liked this video, make sure that you hit like, hit subscribe, and leave a comment down the bottom. And we'd love to see you join us over on Patreon as one of the latest members of the Hobby Goodness, or of the Full Tacklers, or maybe just throw a coin to the bard. But we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.